Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Today, inshallah, we're going to solve Cambridge exam, February-March 2024, paper 22. Let's start it. Question 1. Solid X is heated for 600 seconds. The graph shows the heating curve that is obtained. Of course, we will start here by the solid, and we were heating the solid, so the solid will convert into liquid. And this horizontal part represents the physical change when solid change into liquid, so this part is melting. And we can go to the y-axis to check the melting point of solid X. Here it will be 170 degrees Celsius. So the melting point of solid X is 170 and the answer is B. Question 2. Which statement about diffusion are correct? Aqueous ions cannot diffuse in water. This is wrong, of course. In aqueous solution, the ions are free to move, so of course they can diffuse. Diffusion caused by random movement of particles. This is correct. And particles spread out in all directions from the high concentration to the lower concentration. And we have two correct statements, 2 and 3. So the answer is C. 4 is wrong because diffusion cannot happen in solid. Diffusion can happen only in liquids and gases. Question 3. Which statement about atom of fluorine 919 is correct? 9 is the atomic number, so we have 9 protons present in fluorine atom, and because it's an atom, so it is neutral, so also we have 9 electrons. The mass number is 19, the mass number equal to proton plus neutrons. We have 9 protons, so the number of neutrons will be 10. Statement 1. The fluorine atom contains a total of 28 protons, neutrons, and electrons. So if we add this number together, we will have a total of 28. So that's why statement 1 is correct. It contains more protons than neutrons. We have 9 protons and 10 neutrons. So this is wrong. Isotopes contain different protons. This is wrong. They have different neutrons. And the nucleus contains 9 neutrons. This is wrong also. We said that we have 10 neutrons, so the answer is A. Question 4. 2 isotopes of calcium represented by calcium 2040 and calcium 2044. Which statement explain why these isotopes have identical chemical properties? Isotopes have the same chemical properties because they have the same electronic configuration and of course the same number of outer shell electron, which will be 2 electrons in case of calcium. So only B is correct. The mass number and the number of occupied shells has nothing to do with the chemical properties, so C and D are wrong. Question 5. Which statement describe a property of potassium iodide? Potassium iodide is ionic compound, so of course ionic compounds are soluble in water. That's why A is wrong. But ionic compounds are solids, so of course they are not volatile and they have high melting point. They can conduct electricity when they are molten. This is correct. They can conduct electricity when they are molten or in aqueous solution. So the answer is D. Question 6. Methanol has a boiling point of -19. At -20, the liquid methanol is a non-conductor of electricity. Of course, methanol is an organic compound, so the atoms are joined by covalent bond. It will not conduct electricity. In a sample of methanol, each atom of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen has a noble gas electronic configuration, and the atoms achieved this configuration in one of these 3 ways, either gaining electrons, losing, or sharing electrons. Which statement describes the bonding between carbon and oxygen atoms in methanol? So first, let's draw the structure of methanol. Methanol, we have 1 carbon which can make 4 bonds, so it will make 1 bond with this hydrogen and the other hydrogen because we have 2 hydrogens, and only 1 oxygen, so we will have to make double bond with oxygen. 1 pair of electrons shared between the carbon and each hydrogen, and 2 pairs of electrons shared between the carbon and oxygen. 2 pairs of electrons means a total of 4 electrons shared between carbon and oxygen. So statement 1, carbon atom and oxygen atom share 4 electrons. This is correct. They share 4 electrons. 2 pairs means 4 electrons. and not 2 electrons as in statement 2. And of course, C and D are wrong because we don't have any negative or positive ions. As we've just said, methanol is a covalent compound. So the answer is A. Question 7. The structure of diamond and graphite are shown. Which statement about diamond and graphite is correct? The correct statement should be correct for both diamond and graphite. They both contain a strong covalent bond between carbon atoms. This is correct. They both have a joint covalent structure in which the atom is joined by a strong covalent bond. Diamond and graphite have delocalized electrons. This is only correct for graphite. Diamond and graphite have layered structures. This is also only correct for graphite. Diamond and graphite have low melting point. This is wrong. They have high melting point. So the answer is A. Question 8. Which row contain a description of metallic bonding, structure of the metal in metallic bonding, and a property that is explained by reference to the metallic bonding? So the property mentioned in the second column should be related to the structure of the metal. First statement are incorrect because we have negative ions. The structure of the metal is a layer or a lattice of positive ions surrounded by a sea of delocalized electrons. And the property which is related to the structure, that the piece of metal can be molded into different shapes. It can be shaped because metals are malleable. The layers can slide over each other. So this is the property related to the structure of the metals, because metals have layers of positive ions. When the layers slide over each other, that make the metal malleable, so it can be molded into different shapes. But this property that the metal can react with acid to produce hydrogen, this is a chemical reaction and not a property related to the structure. So the answer will be D. Question 9. What is the relative molecular mass of sulfur dioxide? We will go to the periodic table, check the mass number of sulfur, which is 32, the mass number for oxygen, which is 16. So the total mass of sulfur dioxide would be 64, and the answer is D. Magnetite is an ore of iron which contain iron plus 2 ions, iron plus 3 ions, and oxide ions only. So we will have both iron 2 oxide and iron 3 oxide in one formula. So we will add the two formulas together, iron 2 oxide and iron 3 oxide. We will have a total of 3 iron ions and 4 oxide ions. So the formula will be Fe3O4. If you want to check the structure, this is the iron plus 3 and this is the iron plus 2. Each one of the iron plus 3 can join to 3 oxygen, 1, 2, and 3, and the iron plus 2 ion can join only to 2 oxygen atom. So the total will be Fe3O4, and the answer is D. Question 11. Concentrated aqueous sodium chloride and diluted sulfuric acid are both electrolyzed using inert electrodes. Which row identifies the product at the cathode in each electrolysis? Of course, cathode is a negative electrode, so it will attract the positive ion. In sodium chloride, the positive ion attracted, of course, it is the hydrogen ion, because sodium is a highly reactive metal. It will never discharge. So hydrogen ion will be discharged as hydrogen gas at the cathode. We will have hydrogen in case of sodium chloride, and in case of dilute sulfuric acid, also the positive ion present is hydrogen. So also we will have hydrogen at the cathode. So the answer is B. Question 12. Electrolytes can be broken down by electrolysis. Which row are correct for each electrolyte? The first one, diluted aqueous potassium chloride. Diluted, so also we have hydrogen and OH from water. At the cathode, potassium will never discharge, so at the cathode we will have hydrogen, and at the anode, because it is diluted, so chloride will never discharge, and OH will be discharged as oxygen, so the first one is correct. Second, concentrated hydrochloric acid, also we have hydrogen and chloride ions. At the cathode we will have hydrogen gas, And at the anode, because it is concentrated, so chloride ions present in enough concentration, chlorine gas will be discharged at the anode. So also 2 is correct. Molten aluminium oxide, we have aluminium ions, which are positive ions, and oxide ions, which are negative. So the negative ion should be attracted to the anode, not the cathode, and aluminium will be formed at the cathode, not the anode. So statement 3 is wrong. Concentrated sodium bromide, sodium can never discharge because sodium is highly reactive metal. We should have hydrogen at the cathode, so also 4 is wrong. We have 1 and 2 correct, so the answer is A. Question 13. Which statement about hydrogen fuel cell is correct? Hydrogen is extracted from clean dry air. This is wrong. The only product is carbon dioxide. This is also wrong because the hydrogen fuel cell produces only one product, which is water. There is no pollution. That's why we are using hydrogen fuel cell. Reaction is endothermic, of course, wrong, because the fuel cell, of course, the reaction is exothermic. No toxic gases are produced. This is correct because, as we've just said, the only product formed is water, no pollution, no toxic gases. So the answer is D. Which statement defines the activation energy for a reaction? The activation energy is the minimum energy required for the colliding particle to react, or the minimum energy needed for the particle to collide or to react. So the answer is A. Question 15. The equation for complete combustion of ethane is shown, and the bond energy are listed in the table here. So we have to calculate the energy absorbed to break the bonds. In the molecule of ethane, we have one triple bond, carbon-carbon triple bond, because we have 2 molecules, so we will multiply the carbon triple bond by 2. Here we will multiply 8, 3, 7 by 2. And we have 2 carbon-hydrogen bond in 1 molecule, so we will have to multiply by 2. We will have a total of 4 carbon-hydrogen bonds and 5 oxygen-oxygen double bond. We will multiply this number by 5 to get a total energy absorbed of 5,824. To calculate the energy released by forming new bonds, 1 molecule of carbon dioxide has 2 carbon double bond oxygen, and we have 4 molecules, so we will multiply 4 by 2. We will get 8 carbon double bond oxygen. And in 1 molecule of water, we have 2 oxygen hydrogen. We have 2 molecules, so this will give a total of 4 OH bonds. The total energy released will be 8,296. So to calculate the delta H equal to the energy absorbed minus the energy released. This will be minus 2,472. The question is asking about the enthalpy change of the reaction when 1 mole of ethane is completely burned. Here in the equation we have 2 molecules, 2 moles of ethane, so we will divide the enthalpy change by 2 to get the enthalpy change for 1 mole only. It will be minus 1,236 kilojoule per mole, and the answer is B. Question 16. In experiment 1, small lumps of calcium carbonate are added to dilute ethanoic acid at 40. The volume of carbon dioxide released is measured at regular time intervals, and the graph show the result of experiment 1. In experiment 2, we have make change to give the result shown in experiment 2. As we can see, the graph for experiment 2 is below the original graph. That means it has a lower gradient and a lower rate of reaction than experiment 2, and than experiment 1. So we can decrease the rate of reaction by using a larger particle or by decreasing the temperature. This will give a lower rate. So let's check the table. Which reaction condition will give a lower rate? Using a larger lump instead of small lump at 40, of course, will decrease the rate. But using a powder will increase the rate, or increasing the temperature will increase the rate. So to decrease the rate, we will only use a larger lump at the same temperature, so the answer is A. Question 17. In Haber process, nitrogen and hydrogen are reacted to make ammonia. The forward reaction is exothermic. Which condition produce maximum yield of ammonia? To get a maximum yield, we have to shift the equilibrium toward the right side or toward forward. So because the forward reaction is exothermic, so it is preferred by decreasing temperature. So we will have to use a low temperature to shift the equilibrium toward right. For the pressure, we have to count the number of moles. Here we have 4 moles on the left side and 2 moles on the right side. To shift the equilibrium to the right, to increase the yield, we have to use high pressure. High pressure will shift the equilibrium to the side of less number of moles, which is, of course, is the right side, and that will increase the yield. So we have to use high pressure and low temperature, and the answer will be B. Question 18. The Ostwald process is used to make nitric acid. The condition used in this process, using a catalyst which is a transition metal, a pressure of 10 atmospheric, a temperature of 800. Which of these conditions are also used in the contact process? In contact process, we use a catalyst, which is a transition metal, compound of transition metal, which is vanadium oxide, but we have pressure of 2 atmospheric only, so this condition is not present, and the temperature is 450, so this is also not present. The only similar condition is 1. Catalyst contain transition element, so the answer is B. Question 19. Hydrogen iodide dissolved in water. So hydrogen iodide is a strong acid. It is completely ionized to give protons and iodide ions. Which row describes the final color seen when the solution is tested with damp red litmus paper and acidified aqueous potassium manganate? Because hydrogen iodide is a strong acid, so when we add red litmus paper, of course, it will remain red. And when we add aqueous potassium manganate will oxidize iodide into iodine, and iodine solution in water has a brown color, so of course the color of the solution will turn brown, and the answer is C. Question 20. Which statement about aqueous ethanoic acid are correct? It can be produced by oxidizing ethanol with potassium iodide. This is wrong. It can be produced by oxidizing ethanol with potassium manganate 7 or potassium dichromate. So statement 1 is wrong. It reacts with magnesium to produce hydrogen gas. This is correct for all acids. It has an approximate pH of 3. This is also correct. Produce ester called methanoate. This is wrong. Ethanoic acid produce ethanoates. So only 2 and 3 are correct, and the answer is C. Question 21. Which element form acetic oxide? Of course, non-metal form acetic oxide, and the only non-metal here is sulfur, so the answer is D. Which statement describes the properties of hydrochloric acid? First, carbon dioxide produced when limestone reacts with hydrochloric acid. Limestone is calcium carbonate, so of course carbon dioxide produced. A is correct. Hydrogen produced when sodium hydroxide reacts with acid. Sodium hydroxide is an alkali, so it will react to give salt and water. No hydrogen gas produced, so this is wrong. Methyl orange turns yellow. No, it turns red. Red litmus paper turns blue. This is, of course, wrong, so the answer is A. Question 23. Element P and Q have the same number of electron shells. Because they have the same number of electron shells, so they are in the same period. An atom of Q has more electrons in the outer shell than atom of P, so Q is on the right to P, and because P has less electrons, so B is on the left of Q. Which are the correct statement? B and Q are in the same group. This is of course wrong. As we've just said, they are in the same period, so statement 2 is correct. B has a greater tendency to form positive ions than Q because B is on the left to Q, so B is more metallic. That's why B has a greater tendency to form positive ions. The oxide of Q is more basic. This is wrong, of course. B is more metallic, so the oxide of B is more basic. We have only 2 and 3 are correct, and the answer is C. Question 24. Which substance reacts with dilute sulfuric acid to form a salt that can be removed by filtration? Because the salt can be removed by filtration, so of course it's an insoluble salt. Barium chloride reacts with sulfuric acid to produce barium sulfate, and barium sulfate is insoluble, so the answer is A. Question 25. Astatine is below iodine in group 7 in the periodic table. As we know, group 7 starts with fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, then astatine. So of course astatine will be solid, and because it is the trend of reactivity of group 7, the reactivity decreases as we go down, so astatine is less reactive than all the halogen present in group 7, so of course it cannot displace chlorine, bromine, or iodine, so the answer is D. Question 26. Which property of copper explain why it is classified as transition element? Transition elements have variable oxidation state or more than one oxidation state. As we can see here, copper plus 2 and here copper plus 1. So we have two different oxidation states, and this is one of the properties of transition metals. A good conductor of electricity, it is a property of all metals, not only transition metals. Low density, this is of course wrong because transition metals have high density. Copper can be bent into shapes. This is also the property of all metals, not only transition metals, so the answer is B. Question 27. Brass is an alloy that is formed from copper and zinc. Which statements are correct? Brass, copper, and zinc can all conduct electricity because copper and zinc are metals, so they all can conduct electricity. This is correct. Brass is a compound of copper and zinc. This is wrong because alloys are mixture. Brass is harder than the zinc. This is correct. Alloys are harder than the original metal. So we have 1 and 3 are correct, and the answer is C. Question 28. The equation for the reaction of metal M with aqueous zinc sulfate is shown. Metal M react with zinc sulfate, change into metal M sulfate and zinc metal. Which statement explain why metal M react with aqueous zinc sulfate? First, zinc is less reactive than M, okay, because M is able to accept electron from zinc. M, as we can see here, change from M metal to M ion positive 2, so M lose electrons, and M metal didn't accept electrons, so statement 1 is wrong. Zinc is more powerful reducing agent than M. This is wrong because M is more reactive, so M is a more powerful reducing agent. Zinc is more reactive than M. This is wrong because M displaces zinc, so also statement 3 is wrong. Zinc ions can remove electrons from metal M. This is what actually happened. The zinc ions here in the zinc sulfate take the 2 electrons lost from M to form zinc metal, so statement D is correct. Question 29. In the blast furnace, the impurity silicon oxide is removed by the formation of slag. Which equation represents the formation of a substance which reacts with silicon oxide to form slag? Silicon oxide is acidic oxide. It is removed by reaction with basic oxide, which is calcium oxide, and calcium oxide produced by the thermal decomposition of calcium carbonate in the blast furnace, so the answer is C. Question 30. Aluminium is extracted from bauxite by electrolysis. Which statement is correct? Aluminium ions are oxidized to form aluminium. As we know, aluminium has a charge of +3. It is attracted to the cathode where it gains 3 electrons to form aluminium ions. Gaining electrons is reduction, so of course it is not oxidized. The cathode has to be replaced regularly. This is wrong. The anode has to be replaced regularly because oxygen is produced at the anode. It burns the carbon to produce carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is produced at the anode. This is correct. Cryolite is added to remove impurities. This is wrong. So the only correct statement is C. Question 31. Iron rust, but aluminium doesn't easily corrode. Which statement explains why aluminium doesn't easily corrode? Of course, we know that aluminium has a protective layer on the surface, which is aluminium oxide. So the surface of aluminium is protected by an oxide layer, and that's why aluminium doesn't corrode. The answer is D. Which chemicals can be used as fertilizers to provide the 3 elements needed for the grass improvement of the plant grass? Of course, the 3 elements needed are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and this can be given to the plant by the NPK fertilizers. So we need fertilizers that contain the 3 elements: phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium. Here we have nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, so the answer is B. Question 33. What is the color change when water is added to the anhydrous cobalt chloride? The anhydrous cobalt chloride is blue. When we add water, it changes into the hydrated cobalt chloride, which is pink. So the color change will be from blue to pink, and the answer is B. Question 34. How do carbon dioxide and methane cause global warming? Of course, the heat radiation from the sun to the Earth's surface goes to the Earth's surface, then reflected back from the Earth's surface to the atmosphere, and here comes the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane, absorb these reflected rays and re-emitted back to the Earth's surface. That's why the temperature of the Earth increases. So the carbon dioxide and methane, cause global warming by re-emit the thermal energy that they have absorbed back to the Earth's surface. So the heat energy or radiation reflected back from the Earth's surface is absorbed by the greenhouse gases and re-emitted back to the Earth's surface, and the answer is A. They cannot absorb radiation directly from the sun. They absorb only the reflected radiation from the Earth's surface. They increase the thermal energy loss. This is, of course, wrong. They decrease the energy lost by giving back the energy to the Earth. They reduce reflection of thermal energy. This is wrong. The reflection happened, then the greenhouse gases absorb these reflected rays and re-emitted back to the Earth's surface. So the answer is A. Question 35. 4 statements about photosynthesis are listed. Chlorophyll required for photosynthesis. This is of course correct. The equation for photosynthesis, glucose plus oxygen. This is of course wrong. Carbon dioxide plus water produce glucose. So this is wrong equation. Photosynthesis required energy from the light, the sunlight. This is wrong. This is of course correct. Photosynthesis release carbon dioxide, which can lead to climate change. This is wrong, of course, because photosynthesis use carbon dioxide. It doesn't release carbon dioxide. So we have 2 correct statements, which are 1 and 3, and the answer is A. Question 36. Which molecules are structure isomers? Structure isomers have the same molecular formula, but different structure. So here we have 1 and 3, they have the same molecular formula, same number of carbon atoms and same number of hydrogen atom, and they have different structure. So the isomers are 1 and 3. The answer is B. Question 37. Which statement about the reaction of ethene with steam are correct? The product has higher molecular mass than ethane. The product of the reaction of ethene and steam is ethanol, C2H5OH, which is of course has a greater mass than ethane because ethane is only C2H6. So the mass of ethanol is greater than the mass of ethane. This is correct. The product react with aqueous bromine. This is wrong. Alcohol will never react with aqueous bromine. The number of electrons shared between carbon atoms decreases. This is correct because the number of electrons shared in ethene, 4 electrons, because we have double bond between the carbon atoms. Here in ethanol we have a single bond, so only 2 electrons shared. Number of electrons shared between carbon atom decreases. 3 is correct. The reaction produces an alcohol and hydrogen. This is wrong. Addition reaction produces only one product. Reaction of ethene with steam produces only ethanol. So we have 1 and 3 are correct, and the answer is B. Question 38. Methane and chlorine react to form chloromethane. Which row describe the necessary reaction conditions and the type of reaction? Of course, methane is an alkane. Alkane can make only substitution reaction, so the type of chemical reaction is substitution, and the condition needed is ultraviolet light, so the answer is A. Question 39. Part of the structure of two different polymers, X and Y, are shown. Which row about the monomer and the linkage between the monomers in polymers X and Y are correct? So here we have column 1 to show the monomers in X and Y, and the second column to see the type of linkage. This is the linkage in X and the linkage in Y. Both have the same linkage, which is the amide linkage, so the type of linkage is the same in X and Y. And the type of monomers, let's check the monomer. The monomer in X, it has 2 monomers. This is the first monomer and this is the second. And here in Y, these are the monomer. As we can see, they have different monomers. So the monomers in X and Y are different, but they have the same linkage, which is the amide linkage. That's why the answer is B. Question 40. Substance Q is tested using paper chromatography, and the result of the chromatogram is shown. Which statement is correct? Q is a pure substance. This is of course wrong. We have 2 spots, so it is not a pure substance. The RF value of the lower spot is 0.25. This is of course wrong. We don't have any measurement to measure the RF value. Q is a mixture of at least 2 different substances. This is correct because we have 2 spots, so at least we have 2 substances. Q is a compound of 2 elements. This is of course wrong because chromatography is used to separate mixtures and not compounds, so the only correct statement is C. Here we come to the end of our exam. Like the video and subscribe to the channel to receive all the updates. Comment down below if you have any questions. Thank you for watching. Wish you all best of luck.